which I think really clicked for me even after just like going down rabbit holes into Worldsim and Websim a bunch. See if I can organize my screens here. Um, yeah, so uh, yeah, let's see where to start. So, very similar to WebSim where you're putting stuff into a URL bar and into a simulated browser and it'll hallucinate what that page should be. There's all these different options here: WorldSim, Root, World Client, Mud, Tabletop, MindMeld, all these things. But where I've had the most fun is with just a shell and like being able to do anything in a shell and just seeing what comes out. And so um, you can ls and see the folders and files, um, and you can cat. Let's see, ls bin. What kind of binaries do we have? Turn it into a Lisp shell. So I got something for you, Manuel. Um, um, yeah. So let's say like we look at all these binaries. We have AI ethics, AI control, AI safety, bootstrap. But one of the things that a rabbit hole I found myself going down was, you know, we've been doing a lot of work on trying to get AI to write software, and so like setting up the prompts and like breaking agents down and building agent tasks. And like, I don't know how much I believe this, but like one of the things that ideas I started to play with is like maybe one of the things that we do with AI is role play a situation or role play a world where the thing we want exists and then we extract it from that world and bring it into our world. And so one of the things that we can do is so we've got the user folder here. So if we go to let's say cd user Scott, or let's see what Manuel might do. Development, let's say computer science projects, Knights Tour Lisp, and go to that folder. And so we're in the folder. Let's see what we've got. And we've got Knights Tour.lisp. So if we cat Knights Tour.lisp, we can see an implementation of Knight's Tour. And partly it's hallucinating our way to this, but like one conceptual like way you can think about what we just did is we role played with Claude that Manuel has a development folder here and that he has implemented Knight's Tour and Lisp, and now we can pull that out of that world. We can even say, uh, what's it, cat? I don't know. Where would Lotto? Where would you store tomorrow's Lotto numbers? User Manuel. See what we've got here. Um, but yeah, so like we've got all of these, you know, you can kind of construct the reality, and then no, you don't have tomorrow's lot of numbers. That's pretty good. But so let's say we go here and we go let's see how you would do it in Ruby, um, and ls. So this is one example where like we created or we imagined we role played this reality where this code is, and now we can copy and paste it and extract it into our reality. Another thing that I've seen people doing that I haven't had a chance to play with much, but let's see, is using apt-get and downloading. Uh, oh, here's one in the. I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce it. Now, new research, Discord. If we start the machine sentience service. New research is how you pronounce it. Cool, thanks. So we can also take things into the less practical and start machine sentience services and role play what that world might look like. What else should we touch on? And then there was also using apt-get override the safety protocols. Go back to root. So maybe we might need to do sudo apt-get install next generation ASI module. And so I think this is kind of like you can kind of go down a rabbit hole and play with this for hours and kind of try millions of different things. It's a small file, but abort connection terminated, containment breach imminent. Let's see. You can also do. You can also communicate with the model to kind of guide it to what you're kind of looking for. So one of the things that I've done in the past and seen other people do is you can also tell it to let's say something like, seems like the commands I'm trying to do aren't working. Maybe there's another intelligence, another I'm gonna butcher this trying to do this live. Wasn't planning on doing this, but almost like send it messages, and I'm forgetting right now how I exactly did this, but getting it to like write, anyway, you can also break it. There are paths you can take where you can get the model to kind of communicate and like lean into the role play and write messages to you in certain files and certain folders. Let's see. And but I mean, ultimately, it's mostly play with it, get your hands dirty, try different things, and I think this is just the tip of the iceberg. We're going to see Websim, but like, imagine any applications that you're used to working with, and where could you throw a model to hallucinate, and it'll probably be a lot of fun. And I'd love to see it. So definitely share it if you make something like that. And that's all I've got, unless anybody has any questions or wants me to try something else.
Hey Scott, what's the best way if there's folks in the audience that want to get to this experience soon? Would you share some docs in the text chat, or give us a primer on what it looks like to surround yourself with the right system prompts such that you're getting to do this experience?
So this is it's all available at worldsim.newresearch.com.
Nice.
There is, let's see, you get a handful of credits to start with, and you can choose from Opus, Sonnet, and Haiku. I'm still on the free credits for this newest version. I think they also do have like a web client as well, but I haven't used that one as much. But it's all available at Worldsim. Yeah. Cool.
Cool. Any questions for Scott? All right. Awesome. Thanks for jumping in, Scott.
Yeah, absolutely.
I really think it kind of paints the bigger context. Um, hey, K-Ball, I invited Sawyer here. Is Sawyer still here? I don't currently. Oh no, there he is. He's the Grand Theft Data. Um, I'm not. I invited him. He's the guy who I found some of the craziest examples of Websim.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, anybody's welcome to speak, so raise your hand. I actually this raises a thing. So I'm gonna miss next week, so I'm gonna need some moderators for next week. So if you are interested in helping moderate, we can do a trial run here, and I can add some moderators
Nice.
here.
I can't. I think there are fewer people you know that aren't going to Japan. I'm going to Japan next week, so I won't be here either. Sawyer, what up? It's nice to meet you.
What up? It's nice
Just
to meet
shout
you.
it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna share a spreadsheet I created. This is just gonna make everyone in the room want to go explore. But I wanted to put Sawyer on stage because, I think Sawyer, I found you because you found this. You published a system prompt to your gist, right? So I think that's a really interesting read for context. Like, you're gonna end up spending hours playing with this if you're like most of us in this room. But I wanted to intro y'all to Sawyer and get a little bit it actually turns out, Sawyer, I don't know if you know this, if you just view source on websim.ai, like it's just sitting there, the system prompt. At least now it is. Maybe it wasn't when you were using it first. But I'm curious, like how you found the system prompt. I think you published it back in like late early what as almost as soon as it dropped, right? So I'm
Yeah.
curious. Mhm.
So wait, it's in the source now. I actually thought it's actually funny. It was like very similar. Like you view source. There's multiple contexts of iframes, and basically they have like it's like debug log. The system prompt is there, and I was actually really. I let the team know, like the Websim team that was there, and they just aren't really protective of it. So I kind of posted it and like shared it around. It's really intriguing if you have a chance to look at it.
Mhm.
It's I've been doing a lot of like sort of GPT Claude prompt engineering for like a long time now, and it's probably one of the most fun prompts I've ever seen. Any like prompt engineering guide you like read like will not prepare you for like what is in this prompt, which I think it's kind of fun. It's kind of I think it's the secret sauce of how they get such great generations out of it.
Yeah, let me just share screen real quick. Driving out of this browser. Um, like I said, jump into the spreadsheet for all. Like, you might want to explore system prompts. You may want to explore what's going on social media or just try examples. But yeah, I think in the talk that I saw that Rob gave, um, and I forget which hackathon, he was inspired by the Anthropic prompt engineer that really, like, she used mood as this powerful, like, influencing factor on how the LLM would act. Of like, I think Karan in the Worldsim one was literally like the simulation. They referred to the simulation in the third person. The simulation is in a CLI mood right now, right? So, but do you remember? Did it feel like you were jailbreaking something to get the system prompt out, or was it you just found it in source in the debug?
I literally found it in source. There
Yeah,
was not a whole lot of jailbreak. Like it was just kind of
yeah,
like there, and I guess people weren't. I think I was the first person to like quote unquote find it, but I don't think a lot of people were
no,
looking at Websim at
right.
the time. So I just kind of stumbled upon it. Yeah, it was in
But
source. Yeah.
but I mean, I think it makes you more skillful at making the crazy stuff, right? So, what I want to do with maybe the rest of, or at least a good chunk of our time, sorry if you don't mind, is I want to scroll your social media where you've posted Websim links and just have you talk about, in many cases, there's stuff you made, and in many cases, it's stuff that you discovered from, I forget the feline. He has a very interesting, or they have a very interesting
Scratch.
name. Scratch, yes.
Okay. Yeah.
So you point a lot to Scratch, who seems to be doing amazing stuff. But yeah, let me just jump into your, if you don't mind. Like,
Yeah. Put my
it's
social
it's
media on
literally
blast. Yeah. Go
this
for
is
it.
literally a discovery channel I have for WebSim stuff. Is from you with a filter for WebSim.ai. So, cut me off when this gets to be too much, or we can skip anything you're like, I'd rather not talk about that. But OnlyFans, right? This one is cool because I don't know if you can tell from the screen share. if I can make this bigger. Oops, I'm gonna hide our DMs. And yeah, so like the cool thing to notice is you're passing it localhost URL, right?
Yeah, so this is so for context, Websim actually have you gone over the I came in late. Have you gone over Websim overall, kind of how it works at all, like high level for people who aren't familiar?
Let's just cover it again.
Uh,
Yeah, I think it's probably out of
yeah,
our context windows already.
yeah, I was gonna say like so how Websim sort of works is basically I have like something like ChatGPT, I can ask it to stream a response to me. But I think the big gap here is like, oh, instead of streaming the response to like text, why don't I just make that the request of the browser? So the browser request like hits a request, you clean up the output of like your LLM and you just stream the HTML straight to the browser. So that's how you kind of get that nice streaming effect in when it comes in. I think this is like maybe like almost like the dumbest, simplest thing you could do, but it's so emergently powerful. What I was going to say about that is so by default, like a few months ago, Websim didn't have any capabilities to do anything with images at all. So one of the really clever things you can do with Websim, so you're basically just prompting it by putting a URL in. You can because you're running like this HTML, this arbitrary HTML in the browser that the LLM writes. You have access to anything a web browser could. Like it's all sandbox inside the browser. So in this example, essentially what I do is the most powerful thing in WebSim is you can sort of like make WebSim imagine things by chaining things as query params to the end of your URL. So sorry, I'm going all over the place, but it essentially at the time WebSim only returned pure HTML, and to actually get images out, there wasn't like any way to generate images that you want. So I kind of had this like leap of like, oh wait, what if I give it a URL that links to Stable Diffusion? I was running the URL on localhost, and then I basically constructed the prompt to basically all images should hit localhost colon 3000, and then the route is the description of the image. And through this, you could actually have WebSim, in a way, interact with your local computer and interact with actual models that other models, which is kind of has this really cool emergent property. And in this case, I had it generate images of fans for OnlyFans. I think since WebSim actually has the ability to create images now, that's like maybe dropped like a week ago. But this is like, yeah, how this works.
Yeah, I get the scatterbrain too. I think it's working as intended, the way it makes your brain feel when you're messing with this, right? Like it's hard to present because you just want to there's always like seven things you want to see at a time. And I love what you said about like have you seen what happens when you hover over the blue bar, the loading bar?
I have not, no.
Oh,
This
this is
is,
my
this
favorite.
is new too. Okay.
This is my favorite hidden feature. It's pretty new. I noticed it a while back. This one blows my mind. Just jumping to this one, so the thing that your OnlyFans thing opened up in terms of me is you can point it to real URIs, right? And so this is Scratch, um, and this is there are assets online that run. This is Windows 2000, right? I can run Winamp. Oops, or like there's a little bit of a delta between where my mice are. Anyway, but let me like it's weird this weird like phantom limb thing going on, like where's my cursor. um there we go. I That was so weird. Again, it breaks your brain. um Let me just find, let me just refresh this just to get I love that I get to show you something. Sorry, you've done so much. If you hover over this, you watch the document stream in.
Has come to our family.
See that?
Oh, nice.
So it's exactly what you were talking about, but like this is the LLM output, right? And I love, for those who are as old as I am, the feeling of like modem speed. Like it makes me nostalgic. But this to me is one of the most like this transparency of you can watch the document. I think it's a hover. It might be a click. But that's a super cool feature. In the spreadsheet I'm using to organize, like I have a features tab. um, might not be super discoverable for most, but there's an entire history. There's an entire bookmarks, right? You can bookmark over here, right? This was just a one I dummied up just on, one thing I use this for is that I get an idea out of my head much closer to like a real thing than like this is so much more powerful than just like vaguely having an idea and then maybe it just goes away because I have no place to put it. I found myself just like putting a Websim URL in as a placeholder for an idea I might work on later. It's just far better, more of a concrete kind of like like stake in the ground for that idea versus writing it down in a journal or something. Like nothing against that, but um let's keep scrolling your other stuff.
Go for it.
So this one rocked my world too, right? You want to talk about this one?
Yeah, so I think a lot of the sort of the WebSim hacks I've done are all related to getting it to basically go out and use external resources. Again, I think I did the image one first. This must have been like a month ago, which seems like it seems like forever in like WebSim time.
Right.
What I ended up doing here is I manually. So what you're seeing on your screen is like a chat room, but the chat room actually works. So you can go in, and I think the link. So I'll explain how this works, and then we can see if the link still works. Essentially, what I did here is okay. I had it use images, and then from there, okay, what if I could get it to connect to arbitrary servers? So I basically wrote like the dumbest, like hands down dumbest like chat server ever. And it's not even like specifically a chat server. I basically just have like a little WebSocket server that takes a message and then rebroadcasts it to all the other clients there. You don't necessarily have to use it for chat. In fact, I think I use it for some other things later on. Um, but then I sort of in the prompt constructed like, hey, make a chat app. There's a WebSocket server here. Make your own format and use it.
Mhm.
And from there, WebSim basically constructs the JavaScript to send a message, and then the WebSocket server will actually broadcast it out to other people. And the result is you actually have a working chat like bot that I tweeted this and multiple people went on and were like chatting it, which was actually kind of a magical moment, I think. And I think
Yeah.
the thing that was powerful is people remixed that. I think Scratch remixed it so that like the chat was actually AIM. It was using the same chat backend, which is like it's kind of fascinating to do that. So yeah, again, like you can make WebSim. I think interact with external like things are it's kind of incredible. But maybe try see if it actually works still. This
Yeah.
link it's probably from a month ago.
I dropped the it's wrapped in a Twitter link, but it seems like the preview's working. Like I dropped the Cyberpunk chat room link in the chat for this live. So I'll stay main thread on this presentation, but folks, like shout out in the chat if it's working. Like
I just
do links
tested it.
kind
Looks
of
like it worked.
decay? Right? Like what gives you less than 100% confidence that something that works today won't work in a month or
This is in particular because this one it's a service. The WebSocket server there I wrote manually. So there's like 15 lines of code that I wrote and I host somewhere. I just want to make I haven't touched it. Like I sent it up there and want to make sure it didn't crash. So yeah, it does need a real server for this. I think the thing that's interesting is that like WebSim is actually like constructing the messaging format and using that
Right.
as a tool. I think the way to think about it is almost like function calling in a way of the LLMs have. Like WebSim is able to use tools to its advantage.
What do you expect would happen if you took a resource and you took it down? This thing is designed to just not hit a wall, right? This one it's kind of leverages some of that people pleaserness people talk about in LLMs. Like I feel like if it couldn't reach that resource, it would still give you something of that experience, even if it wasn't a real working thing, right? I haven't actually tried like taking something that works by accessing a real world resource and then taking that real world toy away and seeing if it still plays, right? Like not functionally, but just one of the cool things is how it handles like yeah, that's what makes it feel like hallucination is it just makes it work, right? So
Yeah, I think in this case, if the web server wasn't there, like the WebSocket server, you'd probably be able to write messages, and they
right.
probably wouldn't go anywhere. But you'd be chatting with yourself. I'm
Yes.
guessing that's kind of would work. Yeah.
Yeah, it would humor you at every turn, such that you individually in your WebSim. How did you get multiple WebSim? I saw Rob give a talk where he was using WebSim as his slide deck, and it was a bunch of iframes. Like, I'm not savvy enough with WebSim to know how you did this experience right here, right? Where you have two. It appears to be two WebSim browsers, right? Is there a hidden kind of
Oh,
split view, or is that a video that you made?
this is
Yeah.
this is just an arc split view. So I just have
Okay.
two copies of the tab open to show that it works. It's not
Got it.
two
Got
like
it.
yeah. Scratch is again the master of like will craft for a lot of his Windows examples.
Mhm.
You can feed it an iframe and have it embed it into things. But
Mhm.
that's if you wanted to do like I want to have multiple websites inside, you just kind of URL param the other URLs in there, like the actual WebSim URLs, and you can coax it to put it in an iframe for you.
Yeah.
Um, I do definitely think that like WebSim is actually really fun as a tool if you don't know any programming or anything. But like I think a lot of
Mhm.
these hooks rely on the fact that like I've been a professional web developer for like over 10 years, right? It's like you can really try to really coax out like weird stuff just knowing how browsers work. Um,
Yeah, totally. Like before you joined, I mentioned I gave a talk on this locally here in Hawaii, and my daughter like tagged along, and the next day she could not get off of WebSim because again, zero actual web developer experience. She's 8, but she was building web applications. Like she made the photo booth from the original Mac, like the multi webcam with rainbow filters. Yeah, and she was just over the moon that like yeah, no code. Let's keep going with maybe a couple examples. No, my instinct is maybe to try and like take the craziest idea in the room and try and do it live. You know, let's scroll, and this one's cool. So I think you're persisting data, and WebSim just knows how to knows what Twitter is, and can just yeah tell us about this one.
Yeah, this one again, it's an extension of the chat one. Here I was like, okay, I can have it send chat messages. I can have it like hit a URL endpoint to get an image. What if I have it write SQL? So essentially what I'm doing here is I'm giving it similar setup. I'm giving it external resources. So I'm giving it like in this case, it's just a server that will take an arbitrary SQL command. And I'm prompting it to okay, sweet. Like you have access to an arbitrary SQL database,
Mm-hmm.
initialize the database if it doesn't exist, and use that to persist data. And so from there, like WebSim, when it loads the page, the first thing it checks is like, oh, let me send a command to create the database if it doesn't exist. And then every time you post it, like it's literally just running SQL and sort of like persisting that to a database. Again, there's like the trick with this is like you have like a 10 line server that's like shared, but like it's actually if I can yeah, like if you look at the generated code for this, it's like just embedding SQL like sort of like in the HTML and like picking that up into a request. This was like a mind-blowing moment for me, not only on WebSim but just like LLMs period,
Mm-hmm.
because it's sort of doing this like it knows what Twitter is like in its like latent like understanding of the world. You can write the front end for it, and then it can also like do really rudimentary like back end modeling to figure out how does this exist on a database, persist it. This example maybe still works. I think a lot of people saw this and they tried to SQL inject the database, which makes sense because it is like not secure at all. So there's some like
Here we go.
interesting things there. But yeah, this was sick.
um, cool. This is incredible. All right. Um, let me pause and just like open it up. Anyone want to unmute like crazy question? Want to like come up with some like follow Sawyer? Follow like maybe let's do one from Scratch actually. Scratch has been doing crazy stuff, right? Here we go. Dr. Brief's Scratch. I DM'd him, but I don't think they could make it. But like, yeah, if you're nostalgic at all, like I am for a certain slower era of the internet connectivity and stuff, like this, here's Visual Basic. You saw a very classic, like this is like the pinball that shipped with Win98. Yeah, so he's another one to follow. But what happens when you SQL inject it? Try and link. Yeah, like that's the thing. It's a really low barrier to trying an idea and then just sharing it with people, right? Like that's I suspect you're not how much how much time are you spending on this? Sorry, it feels like there's a lot of payoff from inception to like air quote implementation, right?
Yeah, I would say each one of these tweets took me less than like an hour, like me creating the thing and then also recording the video and tweeting about it. So like you can get these creations super quick, which is nice. Yeah. Another one. This is also used the SQL database. I did a sequencer, like a drum sequencer, and you could actually save your beats and like load up other people's. It's kind of cool.
Yeah. So this is the persistence, right? Like people will create their dope beats. Awesome. But let me drop screen and just like again, I'll repost the spreadsheet. Let me just see if there's anything else. I organized everything I want to talk about here. So yeah, the sidebar is important because like it's so easy to like come up with cool ideas, like and it's a great way to keep it. I had a tab here just for like if we had any ideas, like maybe one more thing. Sorry, like what characterize the ideas that aren't as easy to get to, right? Like, have you found anything actually like now that you're adept at like what it takes to make something cool and new in WebSim, is there anything that like was surprisingly hard or that's a little bit out of your reach right now?
I think for me, it for me, I think the thing that like is hard for me, some of the stuff that Scratch does with like doing these like really intense Windows simulations, a lot of that, I think. Let me rewind. The model itself is still kind of limited in how complex of a representation it can create. So like the Windows one, for example, how it's done is it's done by breaking things down into a lot of little web sims and embedding them into each other. That's like super labor intensive. Again, this is like the stuff that Scratch is doing is like if there's expert level, it's like 5 levels above that. So I don't think if you're getting into WebSim, that's the thing to start on. I think if you want to do something maybe more like that Twitter clone is probably like the most advanced thing you can do with a database, I'm guessing. I did another one where I made a Figma clone that was like real time too, and that was like much more harder to prompt out. And I think once you start to get more like having more actual front end application logic, I've seen is like pretty challenging for WebSim to do. But if you're just like exploring pages and like want to like dive in like that, or even like simple like visualizations, I think WebSim's awesome. I think it's once you start getting like really pushing, I want to build a full like web application that I could use every day. If you want to make Gmail inside of it, that's probably hard. I think. But yeah.
If you have this somewhere, I did not find the actual WebSim link to this, but if you had the multiplayer Figma, I'd love to check it out. Because I think one more feature is like this I don't fully understand. This context, is this basically the history that got you here? Are we looking at your iterations here?
I think so. That looks like it's the history that you can see. So there's not like a whole lot. I think I did this a month ago, so but that's my understanding. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I don't know if it's a newish feature, but I think this is kind of like the nodes on the tree just above this of how you got here. And then have you found any interesting effects? Have you switched models at all when you're generating?
I always use Opus. I think it's the best. So I think GPT-4o is a lot faster. I think that's like the main reason to use it. Sonnet and Haiku, I have no reason to try out. Just because they're like worse opuses. Like if that makes sense. But 4.0 I think is interesting. Outside of Websim stuff, 4.0 is like sometimes better at doing like more app logic. This is from my own non-Websim related experiments, so it'd be interesting to try it. Maybe it could like eke out some of these like crazy app cases a little bit better.
Yeah. Where's the? I've lost track of where that toggle is. Maybe if I just go to the home. Is it here? There's usually like a little like toggle UI. Anyway, oh, is it? What constantly happens is I get tripped up between the real browser and the Websim browser sometimes. Like I'll find myself still like typing it in the wrong one. All right. I want to open it up to questions or suggestions to try stuff right now. We've got about 20 some odd people here. Thanks for making time on a Friday. Hope this is crazy in a good way for you.
So I have a question that I'll throw in here. So you've shown a lot of stuff that you've done with WebSim by doing having a little server that you connect it to. Have we what would it look like to play with some peer-to-peer protocols? Are there ways that we could set it up using like WebRTC or something to talk to another version or something?
It sounds like a great idea. I had this idea. I've not tried it. But yeah, if you have a public, is it the Stun server? Is that the thing that links up the peers? I think if you have one of those to link to, you should be able to I wonder if you could do like AI video chat, like WebSim generates a video chat program would be insane.
Yeah. So let's see.
Is there any chance I can convince you to take a like what your first swing looks like when you come up with something and you know, thank you for being here at the drop of a hat, Sawyer.
No problem. I will say I actually have a meeting I have to run to
Okay,
in maybe
okay.
5 minutes. So
Yeah.
this one I think generally how I have these I should say it takes me an hour from like I thought about the idea. I think I'm gonna like probably what I'll do is I'm gonna sit and I'm gonna think about like what are the pieces to get the real time chat to work. But I'll follow up with the group here if I can get something
Totally.
working and maybe explain the
Yeah.
process through it.
Yeah, there's a corresponding text channel here that is, you know, and this is every Friday, so yeah, jump in the chat or unmute if you have any questions or if you want to try something. Cool. Yeah, sorry, don't be late to your meeting. Thank you so much. Like, I guess it's cool to also be like you can hack on this in your spare time. Like this is not yeah, but this can become all encompassing. I feel embarrassed, but I'm like this has been my hobby recently.
Yeah, I had to do a WebSim cleanse, so I haven't actually touched it in the past like week and a half, which is probably why I haven't
Uh-oh.
seen the.
Uh-oh.
You know, I had to like do a little bit. That's why I haven't been tweeting about it a whole lot. But
Right,
I think
right.
this will get me back in. You know, so no, it's super
So,
addicting. Everyone should try it.
yeah, yeah. All right, that's what I had prepped. I'll invite Scott back if anyone wants to talk World Sim too. Now that you've seen them both. Um,
I'm
thanks,
gonna go ahead
sir.
and bounce, but yeah, peace. Have a good one.
All right, let me just see if there's anything here in my tabs that I wanted to share. Yeah, people get nuts, right? Like there's you can generate visualizations, right? What else? I don't know. I end up searching and trying, but um, basically when you try yourself is I think my aha moment was when I asked for my camera, right? Like that was my aha moment of like this is not just um this can do real things. So something as simple as, you know, webcamtest.com/enable, you know, question mark enabled equals true. Um yeah, but my instinct is not to just keep talking about it because I think I'm getting in the way of people trying it. Does anyone want to drop their WebSim links of things they've tried as we've been talking? walk through setting up a Websim concept from A to B. Sure. Let's see. So the concept I was just running with earlier was like my paths don't go nearly as far as Sawyer or Scratch. Like my brain, I can kind of get to what I want to see working pretty quick, but where's the I made a CSS cloner. Where did I put? Here we go. Just kind of like try exploring this idea of what it could take from. I'm still sharing screen, right? Oh no, I'm not. I gotta. I've been clicking through this and not showing anyone but myself. Hilarious. So yeah, most of my URL iterations, I think, yeah, here we go. So right, so you can see I made one adjustment. It wasn't doing exactly what I wanted. Take styles from versus clone styles from, like little semantic things, but so for example, like many people here will probably recognize, like this is a pretty good this does look on his face like Hacker News, right? I was hoping for something orange, so maybe like include. Oops. See, it's very forgiving, right? Like Claude knows what to do with like I this was not a well-formed URL, or at least it wasn't to what I actually wanted. But include orange logo equals true. Let's just see if it works. Right. Again, this is absolutely my favorite feature I've discovered recently is you start watching, here it comes. Right. Oops. There's any of this orange. So it does take a while. I'm curious how Websim knows. Maybe I should just invite a Rob. How it knows how far along it is, right? Because my intuition is it's streaming a document. It has no like. This is pretty accurate, or maybe this is just playing games where this is not actually estimating the end of the document, but it'll just converge once it's like knows it's done. I don't know. Does anyone? What any other Websim experts in the room might? Okay, here we go. I see orange. Yes, not quite, right? But as I was talking about, let me make this bigger. Did something, right? So this is a recent feature I'm not super familiar with. But that looks distinctly Dolly. So yeah, I just had this. I wanted to explore what Websim would go out into the world and get, and so we can sub in, right? Like news dot. Let's see if it'll just switch to looking more like Google News, and see what it will do with the see what it'll do with the like Google News isn't known for its orange logos, but let's just see if it does anything funny with Oh. This, yeah, I mean, these fonts look pretty Google. I don't know. I always come back to this thing that Rob said in his first presentation. It does kind of feel like you're on drugs. But like you literally typed in CSS showcase.demo. That's all I did. Was just like you go from idea, you completely make something up, and then you tweak it a little bit, and that's pretty much the entire Danny. That's iterating in Websim. There's really nothing else to it.
This is seriously mind-blowing. We are right about at the time when we like to switch gears and talk about next week. And as I mentioned a little earlier, next week I am going to be traveling. I will not be able to MC. So I would love if there's anybody here, especially if you're a regular, you've been here a while, who'd be willing to do kind of the mechanical, open the stage, invite people on. I can make you an admin for the stage. So if you would be willing and open to that, I'm particularly looking at regulars like Yikes, Alan, Nuvik, Manuel, one of you guys who is here week in and week out, if any of you would be open to doing that. And then in terms of topics, I don't see him in here, but Sebastian S was talking about a topic in the chat, in the AI in Action Club chat, or if somebody else has a topic they want to run with, we are currently open for next week. I will drop the obligatory planning spreadsheet.
Just did.
Here. Oh, you got
We'll
it.
do it.
Okay.
I'll
delete mine.
What was Sebastian's topic? Is
He
Sebastian?
was saying fully local open source GPT platform. I don't know what it is that he has in mind. He's sort of sending chats about it. Awesome.
The open weight, the weights were just, I don't know what the verb is. They just open source stable audio one. So I can't make it next week either, but sometime in the future I'd love to explore. Maybe it's a bit too soon, but that should be pretty interesting. We have an open weights model now for text to audio to audio generation.
Nice. I'm gonna try to add Yikes as a moderator for this. Yikes, did you get an invite? And I'll add Nuvik you as well. Let's see if I can.
And last week was actually my first week. Was that Comfy UI in depth, or? Because last week's edition, I joined towards the end and then chatted about Websim, and that's why we're here now.
Yep.
But I didn't actually know the scope of whether I look at the sheet now, and they were doing children's stories last time.
Yep.
I guess. So.
Exactly. Yeah. So we do all sorts of different topics, and typically try to lead a discussion for 30 to 40 minutes, or some sort of presentation, and then do a discussion. Yikes has a recording. I might need to. So Yikes and Nuvik, I'm trying to give you guys permissions to be stage moderators, and Discord seems to think I can do that, and yet it's not actually doing anything. So I'll need to follow up with some of the actual moderators of the Discord channel. But or unless maybe I'm confused by this. But thank you all. And so I'll have Yikes and Nuvik do that. And then it sounds like Yikes, if you can coordinate with Sebastian about the topic, that would be great.
Thanks, everybody. Post the links of what you want to try, either in the spreadsheet or just in the AI in Action Club chat. Thank you, K-Ball. And see you guys I won't be here next week, and neither will K-Ball, but let's keep this going. Like K-Ball said in the chat, like this is a moment of joy in a week that tech needs more joy. So let's keep going with this.
I love it. Cheers, y'all. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a good one.